Welcome to the Cabin Boy Knits Woolcast.
From the cabin deep within the Canadian forest. This is Christopher.
And this is the other guy.
It's Jamie.
We have a lot to talk about this episode. A lot to talk about because a lot has happened over the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about the Tunis sheep, and I'm going to talk about some of the wool behind us.
And we're also going to talk about the rhubarb, the lilacs, my foxy friend, and a whole lot of more very important information in between.
And we also have a special guest. She's a Canadian icon, really.
She is.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And we have a contest. This is the first time having a contest. So we're having a contest. So stick around for details on that as well. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and we'll tell you our story. We've had a lot going on in the cabin over the last couple of weeks.
We have. Let's see. My foxy friend has been back because remember we had the foxes be on their way as they stayed a little longer than they should have.
Was it the mother or was it one of the kids?
It was my little buddy Foxy Cleopatra. You see, I was down there by the back deck and here this little thing comes along saying hello to me. Comes right up to...
I couldn't believe it. It was maybe, 6 feet away from you. Like it was pretty close.
No, it was about 3 feet away.
Wow.
Yeah. Quite friendly. No fear of humans, obviously, but it's my charm. It's my smile. I'm the animal whisperer. What else we've been doing?
Well, yeah, you're definitely the animal whisperer, but you also wanted to feed it. Remember that?
No, I thought about it for a moment because I thought to myself, okay, that little fox, coming around, where's its mother? The mother was hunting continuously. There were skulls back there, carcasses of all animals of sorts. I have no idea. And I thought, I felt bad because we shooed them off. And if it's not able to hunt for itself, I thought, shoot, is it eating? And I thought, no, the last thing you want to do is feed a wild animal, first lesson of wilderness, Canadian wilderness. So no, I did not feed him. I just had a little chat with him. And then I got my camera and I thought I'd do a little photo shoot.
And I do think that they're living in the conservation area next door to us because we see them around. I saw the mother around a couple days ago walking back with some food, and I think she went back into the forest to feed the kids. So they're neighbors now.
Yeah, I think they say that they do have a couple of dens or a couple of locations. They usually bounce from one place to another. So I'm sure they have a nice little cabin in the woods of their own.
Yeah, and you got attacked. You almost got attacked by a snapping turtle.
I did. It was giant-sized turtle. It was like this big. We were driving along, and there it was in the middle of the road. And I thought to myself, "Holy crap! It's going to get run over. So let's just stop and shoot off the road." And then you were going on saying,
"Well, okay, but when we started off, we were hunting for lilacs because it was at the tail end of lilac season, and I was looking for some deep purple lilacs. So we were driving. I've got some places marked where I know where I can get them, but we ran out. So we were going out and we were looking up and down a lot of the country roads trying to find some that weren't on people's property. We saw some that were on front lawns. And
those were the nice ones.
Those were the nicest ones.
We were tempted, but
of course.
We didn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw this thing in the middle of the road. I'm like, what is that? And then we pulled over, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to grab a stick. And I thought, oh, is it dead? Because it wasn't moving. And then I poked it with the stick, and then it started... It wasn't dead. Someone started hopping around.
Yeah, and when you see one there, especially a snapping turtle, you put the stick forward, you hope that they clamp onto it, and you guide them off the road. And it didn't quite work that way.
No, because I was thinking, that's not a snapping turtle, because usually they have a really sharp-looking, prominent, sort of almost like a beak, and it wasn't. But yeah, as soon as I poked it, that thing was snapping its neck back and forth, up on its hind legs even, and I might have let out a little yelp or two, and yeah. But
I'd say it was more of a scream.
Either way, I did manage to scoot it along, poke it along, off to the side of the road, down into the marshy area it went. So it was a success.
And then we saw well, it looked like an emu, but it wasn't an emu. There aren't too many emus around here. It was a wild turkey.
It was a giant wild turkey. I mean, they grow the size of they're like this with this long neck, and we could see it up on the dirt path ahead where we take the little Zan for a walk. So Zan spots the wild turkey that looks like an emu or an ostrich.
Well, and little Zan is 75 pounds. So he went running after this thing, and I was looking at it, I thought, what is this? Because it looked way too big to be a wild turkey, but it was a turkey, and the turkey was just running. And they went all the way up the hill, and then we couldn't see them. And so I was worried because there's a farm field there, and then there's bush. And by the time I got up to the top of the hill, I couldn't see the dog, and I thought, oh no, he's been lured into the bush, and he's been jumped by a gang of wild turkeys. But Zan, we called for him, and he ended up coming back, and he didn't have any scratches on him, so that was good news. But that was crazy. I couldn't believe that thing. It was huge. What's going on in the garden?
Oh gosh, the garden. Okay, so I planted from seed, which I've never done before because you could put this little thing in the ground and something actually sprouts. And so I was mesmerized, and every day I was told, water them every day for the first bit, and then it started sprouting this, that, and the other thing, and more of the other things because I wanted to have some sunflowers because I've seen some down the road in front of one of the houses, and those... They are called gigantic. They're called gigantic. And they're like 10 feet tall and this big around. And I thought, I want those along the back of the cabin. We get full sun. So I planted them along the back wall of the cabin. And then I put up a trellis and I thought, yeah, that would be really nice because I really love blue morning glories. So I planted some of those. But what I did was we had these leftover seeds and they were in packets. So I had them in my hand and I planted them along the way. And some of them were poppy seeds and some were the morning glories. So, lo and behold, up sprouts this, that, and the other, and I could tell the rows of sunflowers. Mm-hmm. But then over by the sunflowers, I see these creeping things creeping up along the sunflowers, and I think I got my seeds mixed up, and I scattered the poppy seeds in front of the trellis, and the morning glory seeds, which, whatever, they look like seeds, and they're now starting to climb along the sunflowers. So that can't happen though.
Yeah, I know. So, well, we'll see. We'll probably know once the leaves get a little bit bigger, we can tell exactly what they are. And so we'll take a look and we'll figure it out, and then we'll do what we need to do. We'll definitely have to move them because they can't keep wrapping around the sunflowers because that's not going to be healthy for the sunflowers. But I'm really excited that you planted sunflowers because I want to dye. I'll be able to dye with them once they grow up to the maximum.
And they attract birds.
They do, yes,
and
absolutely.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how big they get. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Well, I did do the 10 feet, and then I did some medium-sized ones, and then I did some dwarf ones in front of it. So I'm hoping that there's just going to be all these levels of amazing sunflowers.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got... I'll talk about my garden.
It's no longer... Well, it's a garden, but...
When I say my garden, it's the dye garden. So it's dedicated. It was originally dedicated to dyeing yarn, and so I got preoccupied with doing too many things. And I woke up one morning, went out to the garden, and it was completely overtaken with daisies. There's daisies all through the garden, and now the mustard is wrestling with the daisies to take over the garden to see who the winner is.
But if you remember last week, we did go into the center of the garden because I had actually plotted out this. It was beautiful 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, and we subdivided it and divided. We had a circle in the center. We had mulch and paths.
The center was all the herbs.
All the
in
herbs.
The middle.
So if you remember last episode, we had the mint from the garden. Well, now if you think you could look and find herbs, it's now a beautiful garden, and he could probably use a lot of the dye plants, new dye plants, unexpected wild flowers and what have you, that everything is usable. So it's just a different dye garden.
Well, the wild mustard is about 5 feet now, and so I have good news for you though. Okay. This weekend I'm going to be in the garden and I'll be pulling all the wild mustard because I'll be dyeing with the wild mustard. So and I would say that's taking up 2/3 of the garden. So I'll be happy to get rid of that so we can at least see our herbs again.
And then you checked that out to see exactly what kind of a plant it was. I mean, you went to your reference book and your app that you sometimes use to just, and it was mistakenly, which was it? You thought it was
it's
wild,
wild mushroom. It's wild mushroom. It's wild mustard. That's what it is.
We don't have any wild mushrooms.
We've got lots of wild mushrooms around here, but they're not in my garden. So, and the other flower, which is fantastic, and we just got, this is the tail end of it, but this is an iris, and it's absolutely gorgeous. We usually have purple irises around. So how did this end up? We had a bed full of white irises.
Yeah, and this is interesting because I had a conversation about gardening with my sister recently because she's meticulous in what she plants, and she prunes and plucks and weeds, and we just leave everything because there's just too much to do. There's the beds out back, and year upon year, I mean, we've just taken the lawnmower and gone over things and plants unexpectedly. That used to be, we had a bunch of purple irises for the last few years. They've not come up, but these white ones, I've never seen them before. And then we had the peony come up, this huge white peony with beautiful flowers in the middle of the lawn over there, which we usually just run over with the mower. And last year I said, what is that? Huge peonies. So it's the unexpected garden. Yeah. I mean, if you think of, consider yourself maybe, like Mary, quite contrary. What does, never mind. Where does your garden grow? How does your garden grow? We have no idea how it's going to grow because
with silver bells and cockle shells.
No, it's just everything unexpected. We never know what's going to appear. They just appear. It's like magic, really.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm determined to win the war on the garden. So the flowers have won the first battle. I wouldn't say flowers, they're actually weeds that are invasive weeds. So I want to get rid of the invasive weeds that are in the garden. And
invasive weeds.
And my plan this year is to make it, or dedicate it to herbs and have it a full herb garden. So I still have time to do that. So I'll be working on that. Now, we received a lot of feedback on the yarn behind us. And so I want to talk about that because there's a story to it. And really, what we planned to do was we were going to be in a number of festivals this year, and all the festivals were canceled. And so what we did was we basically set up shop, a very small portion of what our vendor site would look like in the house, because I love looking at the yarn, and I thought it would make a great backdrop as well. So, but before we got to the first place to vend, I was thinking, I really want this booth to look like the cabin, or at least have a feel of the cabin. And so I went to the resident expert over here and said, this is what I'm envisioning. Can you make it happen?
Well, I wouldn't say expert, but I can be creative. And you were dyeing wool like crazy. I mean, nonstop. You were just stocking and colors and going for weeks on end, leading up to the festivals that were upcoming. But yeah, we decided on what we wanted this to look like. So what I did, we did buy 2 of the shelving units. We bought them; they're metal. But then I sort of MacGyvered them somewhat. I added a back wood and drilled some holes and put some pegs, and so we got these pegs on there now so we could hang all of the wool. And then I've seen at some of the festival, these crates, people use them all the time, but I did keep my eye out and say, how can we stack these without them being tippy or falling over? So again, we just used these clamps down the sides, and then I had them color coordinated I literally had them color coordinated to know which ones fit where and to stack them correctly each time.
And one of the, I think, one of the things that I thought was really important that needed to be included was lighting. So I wanted to make sure that when you're in the booth, you can see the yarn, because especially with natural dyes, the dyes take on a different color based on the light that you're looking at. So I wanted it to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah, and a lot of these venues, I mean, some of them are just in community centers or arenas, and the lighting's not that great. And you can tell from some booths when they're lit up from above or below. I mean, it just pops, everything pops. So we then got the lighting done, and I picked up some lighting, and I thought, okay, there's a ridge behind the top of the shelving, and so I installed some lighting along the top ridges of the yarn on those shelving units. And then we got just the clamp on, very bright. It's got like 3 or 4 settings for the shelving units and the crates, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And I want to thank the people that wrote in and basically said, talk about the yarn, because I appreciate that. And I started thinking, remember we were in Paris for your 50th birthday?
I didn't have a 50th birthday.
Oh, sorry, 40.
My 40th birthday.
And there were patisseries everywhere. And it was kind of like, when I read the notes, it reminded me of looking through the window at all the beautiful patisseries and not going in them. So I'm not saying that the yarn is a patisserie.
No,
that's what it reminded me of.
No, not going in them. He got into the habit of like, isn't it time for my morning pastry? And it was always, he had to have his chocolate croissant. Was one of his favorites. But I mean, any pastry, it's France, it's Paris. Any pastry will do.
Okay,
it became routine that first things first, we go for a coffee accompanied by a patisserie.
Yeah, I would say that story's true. However, we passed probably 50 in the day, and I only went through to a couple of them. So it's
yeah.
So let's talk about some yarn.
Sure.
Yarn. I'm going to cover this half, and how about you cover that half?
Sure. Sounds good.
Perfect. So if we look at the top left-hand corner, that is yarn. It's merino and alpaca, and it's from Western Canada. And I used indigo to dye with that, and I also used black walnut. And then below that, I've got a bulkier wool, and that is Peruvian Highland wool, and I used an indigo on that one. Behind me, I have BFL. I love dyeing with BFL. It's got a great sheen to it. So, and I've used a number of things. I've used cochineal, Brazil wood, indigo, white spruce, a lot of different trees. I've used blue spruce as well. So a lot of things, and I like mixing. I like so you'll see a lot of combinations in that type of yarn. And then behind me, I'll talk about one of my favorites, and that
I know which one that is.
Yeah, it's this one. I love this one. It's it always puts a big smile on my face when I see it. But
yeah, that one is quite stunning. I have to say, very stunning.
Although I like all the yarn, but this one is. I think the colors come out great. It is white spruce, indigo, cochineal, and goldenrod.
Yeah, and there's got to be at least there's probably a dozen colors in this one skein, with the overlaps and the combinations of the colors. Like obviously, if your color wheel, you know what changes to what if they're combined, and you get this amazing. I mean, to have that many colors in one skein, it's beautiful.
Well, you also have to be. The other thing I love about this is that you have to be so careful when you're using multiple dye pots, because every time you're exposing the yarn to a dye pot, you're also increasing the chances of damaging the wool. And so you have to be very careful when you're working with a number of dye pots. So this is a special one.
It really is a work of art. And it's very meticulous in how you're going to dip. I mean, you dip it for, really, it's a minute or two each color, but it's just the several different dye pots and strategically kind of placing it in these different dye baths, and a little bit of overlap, but not too much, and leaving enough space to add each color as you go.
That's right.
It's a process. It's a process.
And it takes a long time. That's the other thing. It takes a long time. And so when you think about how much you pay for that, and the work that gets done into this, but you also have to think about the resources that you use creating this as well. So there's a lot of different factors to think about. But this is merino.
It's the love of his art that entails, and this is the outcome of the love he has for the yarn and the dyeing process.
Sure. So I've covered blueface, Leicester, merino, Peruvian Highland, merino from the West Coast, and alpaca. So how about you start from the far end?
So let's see. There's not a whole lot of variation here. We do have Shetland, the Shetland from Quebec. That is a nice wool. And some of it's a Shetland cashmere blend, which is very nice.
They're both fantastic.
Beautiful halo and some amazing colors. And a lot of what you mentioned already. There's sumac and Brazil wood and indigo. There's onion skins and marigold.
Avocado.
So yeah, multitude of colors. And also some more BFL and silk, the indigo and the grays are the sumacs. You get some grays and some light pinks and a whole variation of colors there.
Oh yeah, sumac's fantastic to dye with.
And
go ahead.
I was going to mention, Ed, what you see on the top shelf over here, that's one specific breed altogether. And those I think you're going to be using for some of your kits, perhaps. That's going to be coming your way. There's one of the kit boxes here, but you have a lot of ideas and you have things on the go and started and ready to kickstart.
I will say that the bigger ones, it's a mixture. It's a Canadian sheep. It's a mixture of Canadian sheep, and it has a beautiful springy feel to it. And so I was knitting socks like crazy, and I think I've knit 4 or 5 pairs of socks in the last couple of months.
He has, all for himself.
That's not true. And
I haven't gotten a pair.
so that's I love that. So that is going in a sock kit. And then the other one I'm going to talk about in another episode, and that is with Twin Oaks Farm, and so looking forward to unboxing that and talking about that kit as well. I did want to say one thing about the Shetland wool.
Okay.
See, when you start talking about wool, I can't stop talking. But one of the fantastic things about Shetland wool is that because it has naturally so many different colors.
Yes.
So dyeing with dyeing with the creams and dyeing even with the browns, really. When you over dye that with a natural dye, it brings such a great rich color to it, and you get all various colors coming from Shetland. So I love dyeing with Shetland.
And you've
wool.
also done a combination of with a lot of gray wool, which
Yes.
when you over dye on a gray, you get some beautiful colors. Some of them as well, though, there's combinations grays, but those grays, to get that gray and a unique color on its own, for example, like pink and gray, you've actually colored that gray.
Yes.
Otherwise, you wouldn't get the pink.
That's right.
So that's not over dye. That's using 2 different colors to get a gray and a whatever color combination.
Yeah, it depends on the fiber that you're using. There's a whole bunch of different variables, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
I won't give away all of his trade secrets today.
So, and this is a small sample of all of the yarn that we do have, and I'll be going through in greater detail some of the other yarn that we have in later episodes. I want to talk rhubarb.
Rhubarb, yes, because we talked a little bit about rhubarb last time.
We did,
because
yes.
You were doing some dyeing with rhubarb, or you were planning on dyeing with the rhubarb.
So this is what happens. So we've got the rhubarb plant on the side of the house, and it's grown significantly over the last few years. It's huge.
Oh yeah, it's just
and the photo that you took of me holding the rhubarb with Zan in the picture, I had a lot of comments on the giant rhubarb. I think it was the way that the photo was taken, and because it is big rhubarb, but it's not giant rhubarb.
Well, I don't know.
But when we take the rhubarb though, I get the top and you get the bottom.
I'm always stuck with the bottom half of everything we do here. But no, the leaves are like this on rhubarb. So,
yeah.
Gather 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 of those and you've got this giant stack of rhubarb in your arms. So I did cook with the rhubarb,
yeah.
Right? We put out, the message for all of you to send us some special recipes of sorts. So what I did was I ended up baking... I knew I wanted to bake a cake because I love cake.
You do love cake.
So I did do a cake. But what I did was I did a combination recipe because we had so many recipes. We had some from far and wide, Australia, the UK, the US, Canada, of course, locally. So what I did was I wanted cake. So I ended up taking 2 or 3 recipe combinations and I kind of fandangled it a bit because I have been doing some baking. So what I did was one of them called for buttermilk and another one just cream or, sour creams. You add sour cream to a cake and that makes it super moist. So what I did was let's say I put less of the liquid, added sour cream, didn't have buttermilk. So buttermilk you could use you just sour the milk with vinegar and it starts clumping and turns into cream almost. So I made this rhubarb cake and it was good.
It was amazing. It was beyond good. It was we devoured it in less than a day.
Okay, I wasn't going to talk about that part of it. Yeah, it lasted about a day and a half because we always have this discussion when I make something because my favorite cake of the day is breakfast cake, and we had the conversation with your daughter.
You like lunch and dinner cake too.
That's right, but mostly breakfast cake. And we had this conversation with your daughter because she mentioned coffee cake, and I said, "Oh, right, coffee cake. I make coffee cake. You use partial instant coffee to it." And she's like, Jamie, a coffee cake is it's just a general. It's something you have with coffee. It's called coffee cake because you have it with coffee. And I said, well, that's what I'm trying to explain with breakfast cake, because breakfast cake is any cake you have with breakfast.
That's right.
It's breakfast cake.
That's right.
And that I love breakfast.
Did
cake.
it last till breakfast?
It did. One breakfast.
Only because you were policing the tray. And every time I would go into the kitchen, I'd hear footsteps behind me, someone checking to see if I was eating the cake. So
no, mostly when I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, I know that when I went to bed last night, that this corner section was this big, and now this corner section's no longer there. And I'm thinking, I remember not having that slice, and some of it is different shape than it was before I went to bed.
I think it was the dog.
That's always his explanation. Jamie, I think the dog's got into the cake again.
It was amazing though. It was really good, and the recipes that came in too were fantastic. And so I'm looking forward to you baking
well
all the other recipes as well.
Me baking, yeah, me in the kitchen again. We love that part of it, that part of the day. So yeah, a lot of recipes.
I will say I'm happy to jump in and help.
With the finished product, mostly with the finished product. No, there are still more recipes that I did receive, and I still want to try some pies. I know the Australian one, she mentioned something about, with her pastry, it was a ginger pastry. That sounded amazing. And I never thought of doing rhubarb combination with like apple and raspberry, strawberry rhubarb, but not strawberry, like strawberry, rhubarb, and apple combination, like fruit. So I'm going to try different things, and I still want to make some jam. So I'm going to try a few more recipes that have come our way.
Yeah.
And we... Go ahead.
Okay. You mentioned jam, and we've also had people asking, you said Jamie jam. So when is the Jamie jam coming? What Jamie jam will we be seeing?
Yeah, that's funny because, you let these things slip and, one word, and somebody, we did have a couple of people pick up on Jamie jam, and they're like, Jamie jam? And it's like, oh, I got to make jam. I did make jam. I have made jam.
It's great.
And so that I'm looking forward to making more of as more fruit suddenly appear on trees, and where maybe strawberries are coming up soon.
Yeah, and we'll keep the dog away from them.
You mentioned you've come across a lot of wild strawberries out back here along the drive and along the walk we take with the dog, so wild strawberries. And we also, we got mail. And the reason I mentioned that first off is unexpectedly I got a parcel.
You did?
Well, you got a parcel. She's his friend. From Louise. She's our friend. And she dropped off a Harvest Hastings recipe book with local people. It's probably one of those fundraiser books with some amazing recipes. And there had to be at least 6 rhubarb recipes. So I was very excited and very thankful.
Yeah, it was interesting because we were sitting in the kitchen and the dog started growling. But it was a low tone growl. And so if anyone drives down or starts to drive down the driveway or gets out of the car, the dog goes crazy and you can hear him barking. But this one, I just thought maybe it was something downstairs that was moving around, or who knows? Yeah,
because he used to be very animated if you'd hear a car coming down the driveway. But through the woodlot, way up there, it's so quiet out here, you could hear the cars go by. So if it's early in the morning, you clearly hear a vehicle, he thinks it's coming up. But now he barks, he barks if you hear a bird out there. But we're in the woods.
Especially the woodpeckers.
Oh my gosh, the woodpeckers, talk, talk, talk. There goes the dog. It's like, there are birds out there. There are birds everywhere. He can't be barking every time. So when we hear him do a little bit of his huffing and a puffing and this little low growl, we think it's probably just a bird.
Or somebody in the conservation area, or somebody walking through the forest or something like that. But,
yes.
But so we didn't react to it. And then later on that afternoon, I was outside. I went through the front door, and there's this parcel sitting there. And so I was quite excited about the parcel.
So she came right up the steps, right up to the door, put it right at the doorway, and I can't believe that the dog didn't react because we didn't hear a thing, and there was this parcel.
Yeah. And inside the parcel was the cookbook that you had.
Yes. Which
is fantastic. And also some fur from her dog, and which was great. And so I'm looking forward to working with that as well. So
you did take a spinning class a while back. Did you not? Hands to hand. You might.
Oh, you're talking about drop spindling. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I've done both, but I just
spin that fur.
The problem is just figuring out when you only have so much time, which you want to spend time on, because some things have to sacrifice. Like I've knitting versus dyeing versus reading about dyeing versus foraging. So there's all kinds of versus your full-time job. So it all
and we have
in.
thought about, because Zan has beautiful soft coat, and when he gets a haircut, I mean, I pluck away his ears alone, and I'll have a pile like this of his hair. So when he gets, full-on haircut, you've got a bag like this that we did keep, because I did give him one haircut. We haven't been able to take him to his beauty salon, so some of us haven't been to a beauty salon in months. So I did give him a haircut, and if we could get someone to spin that hair, it would be beautiful.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely, yeah, definitely. So if you have any ideas out there, fire them off, and we're happy to read those.
And I can't believe that, speaking of hair,
your hair, yes.
We were going to talk about my hair, but since
I was thinking when I saw your hairdo today, parted in the middle, it reminded me of John Travolta back in the Vinnie Barbarino days.
Is that Welcome Back, Kotter? I wouldn't know, because
you're way too young for that.
That's way before my time. But no, I did come out of the shower, and I just gave it one of these, and next thing you know, it kind of felt like this, and I let it dry, and I thought, oh, it reminded me of my, the good old days when I was young, and mostly when I used to roller skate. I mean, I roller skated from the age of, I started roller skating at about 4 or 5 years old. Old-fashioned roller skates, and then they built a state-of-the-art roller rink in my hometown, roller country, and so this was totally throwback. So I thought, I'm gonna keep it, because I haven't had a haircut since January.
You need to wear your roller skates too.
Oh, I do. I have 2 pairs of roller skates. They're in the basement.
Yeah, the last time you wore your roller skates, they were an old pair, and it was metal wheels.
Okay.
And you destroyed the.
I did. Yeah.
The patio.
I did. So I came across these roller skates, and no word of a lie, when I was really young, we had a couple of pair of those metal roller skates that you attach with, there's little twisty things, and you attach them to the sole of your shoes, and they're metal wheels. They're ancient. And I found this beautiful, perfectly intact pair still had the leather straps, and I thought, okay, I need to take these for like a spin, and out I went, and it was hilarious, to say the least.
Well, so it was until you saw the markings on the on the patio. Yes. But back to Harvest Hastings and Louise Livingston and the parcel. So I just want to do a shout out to Harvest Hastings. That is an organization that I love, and they're in our area, and they really foster and help farmers and people who are working in the community that practice. They educate and help foster the practice of eco farming, and they've been over here. We're on 17 acres, and we walk through the property and really talk about how best to maintain your woodlot. They've been fantastic. So I think they're a great organization, and I'm sure there's a number of them in various areas across the country.
Well, they were some of the first people we met.
Yes.
I don't even remember how we first got in touch with them. Was when we were looking at having the woodlot surveyed or something. And the funny thing is they knew the previous owners, because they've walked this woodlot before, Louise included, and they had their own key. And remember that?
Yeah, but they weren't the only ones who had the key to this place either. There's a number of people.
This place was put back together in 1977, and top secret information. There are keys out there that people still have. So like, we still have one of your keys, and they actually returned it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
And then just the other thing about every town needs a Louise. She's fantastic. Highly educated, highly knowledgeable about so many things, and I just love her to death. So
yeah, she's
so Louise, if you're watching, thank you so much for the the fiber and also the cookbook, because we definitely put
Yes.
that to use.
I am going to use that. So yes, thank you, Louise.
I got some more mail.
What else did you get?
I got package. This one I'm also really excited about, and it came all the way from Manitoba. And Manitoba, for those of you who aren't familiar with Canada, is beside us. If we were to hop in a car and drive hours upon hours upon hours west, we would hit Manitoba. And so this is a farm in Manitoba, and it's Longway Homestead. And this is a fantastic, it's a fantastic, I guess, how do I phrase this? Group that have joined, and so every month I get new fiber.
We're talking about that.
Yeah, and so
Awesome.
So I've signed up for a year. So every month I'm going to get a different fiber, different sheep, and there's a education postcard for the sheep that are. Do you know what sheep this is? Did we talk about this?
Isn't it the Tunis?
Yes. Yeah, it's the Tunis sheep, and so along with that they gave a button and a couple of other things. But I love this because what it's doing is it's promoting different breeds of sheep, which is fantastic. And the Tunis sheep, it actually came to the United States in 1799, and it was a gift from the ruler of Tunisia at the time over to George Washington. And so there were 10 sheep that were sent over, and then they just multiplied. And so what happened was they were breeding the sheep with interbreeding the sheep and breeding the sheep with the sheep that were already there, and so a Tunis breed developed, and it's called an American Tunis breed. And so they started to flourish in the north part of the southern part of the United States and a little bit up in New England. And then the Civil War hit, and it almost wiped out the entire breed. And so.
And you mentioned something about you mentioned something about a red color to them.
This is your favorite part of the story.
It had a pretty color.
And so the Tunis sheep, the face it's got a reddish face and reddish feet as well.
No, because I thought when you said it had this red in it, I thought, wow, what do you mean, like red? I thought, is it red wool that you could actually use?
It's not like dyeing it in cochineal.
You're not going to dye it. You're not using the face.
No.
Fiber to dye with, and you're not getting red wool from its face or hoofs.
No, because you're taking the fiber from the body, and not the face or the legs, and it's a great meat sheep. That's what it was primarily used for, and so that's why it started to develop so quickly across the United States. But then, yeah, what were we gonna say?
No, I was going to say, and you've mentioned before about this monthly business, because always trying to promote, like you are, different diversity in wool, because people know their go-to wools that I would be familiar with, like, your Merino and your Shetland, and I guess, what else is
Blue-faced Leicester?
BFL. Well, even that BFL, some people say, what's BFL? And I say, well, I don't know, what's BFL? And then he tells me, and then I can relay that information to you. But all of these other sheep, I have no idea what they are. But once you put them to the forefront, you're like, this is beautiful. I mean, it's quite soft, it's quite nice. So educating people is a good thing.
And the micron level of this is higher 20s to lower 30s. So it's, which is surprising to me because it feels softer than that. And I know that this is no longer on the endangered species list. It's on the protected list. So it still needs to develop.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I thought was interesting with this is in Canada, or at least in Ontario, the province that we're in, the farmers, I went to see which farmers have Tunis sheep, and it's right by the Canadian border. So it's Ingleside and Cornwall and that area. And there are 3 farmers there who have Tunis sheep. So I'm looking forward to paying them a visit. Because my son lives right there. And so when I go down to visit him, I'm going to see if I can pop in and have a chat with the farmers there as well. So
I'm going to be very excited because this is my favorite micron count.
Maybe you could do a whole episode on micron counts. So we've got the button and everything else. So this is, if you want to find out more information, I'm going to have a link to it, and it's Longway Homestead, and they are in Manitoba. So really excited about this and can't wait every month to get a new braid. And I'll share that with everyone as well.
I can't wait because he always tells me about it first, and then I am able to, relay some tidbit of information about it, something about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about lilacs.
Okay, lilacs.
Okay. I just did a how-to video on dyeing with lilacs, and it's one of my favorite things to dye with because you can use basically the whole plant. You use the flowers and the leaves and the bark, and you get a unique color with each. And so that's what I did. I was dyeing with lilacs, and do you know which part produced which color?
Well, let me think.
No.
But I do know that you used the leaves, you used the flower, and then when we were hunting for those deep purple lilacs, you did get an incredible color from the deep purple compared to some of the paler mauves and purple, and there were also white lilacs. But the branches and the leaves, a different color altogether as well.
Yep.
And it also smells like lilac. No, it doesn't.
Okay, so you're right about the flowers. I like to pick the flowers when they're at their peak. And so, and the purple, the deep purple, produce a really nice color, and it's a kind of a greenish color. You get a green hue to it. And, I'm not sure what color is picking up with this light in here, but it depends on, when you take this outside, it's got a gorgeous green color to it. So I love that. And the color stays as well. That was a question that someone had asked recently. The leaves produce a fantastic yellow, and the bark. This was the first year that I was dyeing with bark, and I got two colors. I had the brown, the fantastic brown that came out of it. It was really nice, and so I used just the bark on it. I didn't use the stems or anything like that. So this was bark, and then I added a little bit of iron to it. And the iron that I use is homemade. It's vinegar and basically rusty nails and water. And so I added that to it, and I got a really nice gray color. So I love dyeing with lilacs. They're fantastic. And I think Canadians have fallen in love with lilacs. We have produced over 200 variations of lilacs, and we've got a place in Ottawa that studies plants, and they were working on lilacs and trying to make them conducive to thrive in our environment and thrive during our winter, or be able to survive during our winter. So we're the benefactors of that.
So you mentioned they were originally brought over from Europe then?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, they're brought over from Europe, and they live forever too. They live over 100 years. So
Wow.
That's why we see them when we're driving down some of the country roads. And it's quite possible that those are all homesteads that were there.
Yeah, it does. It's funny because lilacs always reminds me of my childhood, because there were lilac trees in practically everybody's front yard, and we used to go down the back laneway, my sister and I, and with these beautiful lilacs every spring. We'd climb on the fence and we'd snap a few and take them home. But there was an old area of town that they tore down up on the rocks, up on the building, this one entire little neighborhood, and all that was left in my younger days, you could see the stairs and the foundations leading to nowhere, and there'd be just a lilac bush. So there were lilac bushes here and there along the rocks where the homesteads used to be, but the lilacs are still there.
Yeah, oh, I know, because they're fantastic, and the smell of them is just so nice. But Canadians love them, and they're even reflected in some literature that we have in Canadian literature. And so this leads us to the next part of the lilac story. We have a very special guest, really a Canadian icon.
Is she an icon?
Absolutely. Who will be reading from Anne of Green Gables. So let's go and see.
I dropped on my knees and gazed out into the June morning, my eyes glistening with delight. Oh, what Wasn't it beautiful? Wasn't it a lovely place? I suppose I wasn't really going to stay here. I would imagine I was. There was scope for imagination here. A huge cherry tree grew outside, so close that its boughs tapped against the house. And it was so thick set with blossoms that hardly a leaf was to be seen. On both sides of the house was a big orchard, one of apple trees and one of cherry trees, also showered over with blossoms, and their grass all sprinkled with dandelions. In the garden below were the lilac trees, purple with flowers, and their dizzily sweet fragrance drifted up to the window on the morning wind.
Well, that was a great read from one of our icons.
Was it?
She looked familiar, though, to me, and she was a little bit older looking than I last remember.
Okay, I'm thinking like, wow, when I saw her, I thought, she has such a youthful glow and such a youthful energy, and she had very good hair.
Okay, I'll agree with that part. She had great hair, and the color and the fiber was awesome.
Look familiar? Okay, so, BFL, Brazil Wood Red. Thank you for the beautiful color, Christopher.
Well, hold on to those, because I want to talk about our contest. It's going to be National Indigenous Peoples Day in Canada, and so I want to celebrate that. And I thought the way we can celebrate that is we can give some stuff away, give some yarn away, and I'm going to give a bag away as well. So we've got Anne Shirley's locks, and we have the Cabin Boy Knits bag. And all you have to do to enter is send us a note and tell us who your favorite Indigenous person is. If you're not from Canada, you can be from your own country. It doesn't have to be from Canada, but I will put a link to some names that will help you along the way and help with your with adding your name into the raffle.
And I do have to say that I have a not so distant relative who is well known in Canada, and that would be Louis Riel, Métis out of Manitoba. My grandmother's, I believe my grandmother's aunt, or it might be my grandmother's great aunt. I'd have to look back at the dates, but she was married to Louis Riel's. She's Louis Riel's sister.
Wow! And why not pick one of the most famous? That's pretty big. I would say that my favorite is Tom Longbow, and he was a phenomenal runner, and I was a runner in a past life, and he was incredible. And then he went off to war, fought in war, and then came back and ran again, and just incredible athlete. So I would say that he is one. There's so many to choose from, but he's definitely one of my favorites. So send in your favorite Indigenous person and the reason why they're your favorite, and put your name in the raffle, and you can win a bag and 2 skeins of yarn. So anyway, I love the comments that you have coming in. Keep them coming. We love answering the questions, and if there's anything that you want to see that we haven't covered, fire that off too, and we can talk about that. So wish everyone a healthy and safe week, and look forward to doing another one with you as well.
And I thank you as well for taking me into the folds. Is that the correct term?
The web folds.
The web folds.
Have a great week, everyone. Take care.
We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.